Okay, time for lesson 2. The second ability that you have to know about when it comes to spiritualist mediums is the ability called Haunt. That's actually the one that I just used. This allows me to use my soul like an amplifier, basically turning up the volume on my guardian ghost's spiritual power, allowing him to physically manifest. Of course, he doesn't come back to life or any sort of nonsense like that, but he gets enough spiritual power to take form and have real effect in the world. If he pulls that gun and shoots you with it while I have Haunt activated, trust me, the bullets will not be a game. They will, in fact, kill you, but only so long as I'm giving him the power to. When this ability is active, I essentially get to summon him to be my partner in combat, meaning I can be in more than one place at one time. We can cooperate, coordinate attacks, strategize. It's a very effective technique that has many uses. Now, finally, lesson number 3, Haunted House. This is the third and final ability of spiritualist mediums. The ability Haunted House allows us to effectively create an environment that suits us, that benefits us and our style of combat. Haunted House can have any number of effects. Once again, it all depends on the individual spiritualist medium and the guardian ghost he possesses. Once Haunted House becomes activated, they essentially create a space around them. How big that space is depends on how much power you actually possess as a spiritualist medium. But so long as you're inside of that space, there are new rules that apply, new ways that things can work. For example, you can straight up bend reality, make it do what you want it to, within a certain confine, of course. There are rules to everything, and it all depends on the individual team. Me and Cast Iron Jack here have the ability to produce a haunted house with a very singular effect. My particular haunt makes your shadow just as dangerous to hit as your body. Basically, as long as my haunted house is active, if I shoot your freaking shadow, I effectively shoot you. If I shoot your shadow in the head, then you get shot in the head. Simple as that. And not only that, I can actually manipulate your shadow as well. I can use essentially what's called shadow stun, meaning if I step on your shadow, then for exactly 3 seconds, it inhibits your movement. Don't get me wrong, most of your body can go wherever it pleases. Your upper body can still move and function as normally. However, your feet are glued to the ground. You can't go anywhere. You can't run. You can't dodge. It lasts 3 seconds and takes 30 seconds to become effective again. I can also use the ability Shadow Hostage. If I use this technique, then effectively I steal your shadow. It becomes mine for 1 full minute, and during that time, you might not think holding a shadow hostage is that effective of a means of combat, but I assure you, it is useful, because when I hold your shadow hostage, I also hold one of your senses hostage. They come along for the ride. I simply decide one form of perception to be taken along with your shadow. I can take away your eyesight so that you can't see for 1 minute. Take away your sense of hearing so that you don't hear me sneaking up on you. Take away your sense of balance so you can't stand up straight. Take away your sense of direction so you forget the difference between left and right. Try to raise your left arm and it'll raise your right. Try to move your left foot and it'll move your right. Try to look right and you'll look left. All of your senses, any one of them can be taken hostage at any time, so long as I'm actually able to ensnare your shadow. And last but not least, Shadow Slayer. This one is both the most difficult and the most powerful. While Haunted House is activated, if I'm able to shoot your shadow 6 times within a specific amount of time, I effectively kill it. A shadow is in essence a part of the soul in more ways than people realize. If you kill someone's shadow, their soul has to create a new one. There's no other option. No being that exists in this world or any other can exist without a shadow. It must exist. And so, if you kill someone's shadow, they must produce a new one. And trust me, you do not want to experience that. Let's just say it's unpleasant. But once again, that's only my haunted house. Each spiritualist medium has their own, with their own unique quirks about it. The important thing to know is that all of these abilities use up my spiritual energy, the power of my soul. Every time I use one, it chips away at me, like draining the power from a battery. Eventually, I'll run out. It's not unlimited. Using any one of these abilities has its costs. It's entirely possible to use combinations. I can use Haunted House and Haunt at the same time, or Possession and Haunt. Hell, I could use all 3 at the same time if I really feel like it. However, the drain on my spiritual energy would be enormous. I'd be wiped out in a matter of no time, and then completely unable to utilize black iron anymore. And, well, that's basically all there is to it. So, you're going to need to know this, because if you're there, you can capitalize on these things too. It's going to be important for you to be able to know a good spot to attack when you see it. And believe me, we're definitely going to need it. We're going to need to take every advantage we possibly can, because this is going to be a fight. So, now that you know about my abilities, I think it's about time you laid some information out on me. Vicky hasn't exactly been forthcoming about your little abilities. If I'm gonna know how to work with you, I need to know what you can do. About that magic metal slime stuff you have. About that suit of armor, what it can take. Your physical strength and speed. It's better if we know these things. It'll increase our effectiveness. Yeah, I replied. No problem. I'll give you the full scoop. So, we spent the rest of our time talking back and forth about my abilities and his abilities, how best to work together. After laying the full details of my powers on him, he was actually pretty impressed. He honestly didn't think that I had that much power, based on my confrontation in Barrett Plaza. But I told him I was simply limited, both in experience and in the amount of liquid steel I had at my disposal. But now I had not only gotten a better suit of armor to up the ante on my physical abilities, and started physically training, which has no doubt made me stronger and faster than I was before, but now I had a separate stow of liquid steel to use at my disposal, which would only make me more effective in combat. At this point, me fighting was going to be a whole different ball game, and I was going to be able to do a hell of a lot more than I was in the plaza. The whole thing put a smile on Victor's face, which was actually new.